But let's make sure that we put them properly together.
We are seeing the early stage of the implementation of the tax, the new tax laws. Are there things that you have identified as flaws in the tax reforms or the new tax laws? Because we are seeing the early stage.
No, the flaws and whatever have been pointed out, KPMG and others, let the conversation go on. What I'm interested in having rational public conversation that leads us to a tax reform package that's good for the Nigerian people. We need those. We need new tax laws and all of that. And the various experts can contribute and have a rational conversation. And what comes out as best for the Nigerian people is very welcome. I think that is important. You know, I'm not going to poo-poo tax reforms. They're important. We need them. But I'm going to make sure that they're not just revenues for people to spend. We need to look at maybe even constitutional reforms that limit how you spend those kinds of monies that you raise. Do we need balanced budgets? Do we need all of those are issues that we need to bring into conversation. So yes, starting the process is a start for rational public conversation. Once we can have rational public conversation around those issues, then we can possibly make progress.
But I'm interested, Prof, as an economist, what do you make of these government decisions and policies economy-wise? So let's look at the micro and the macroeconomic policies of this government. And there is a pinch that also has on the skin of the average Nigerian when those policies took effect, when those decisions were made by the President, Bola Tinubu, and we are entering into his third year in office. So there is no time for testing any longer. This is the time that Nigerians need to start feeling the effect. If you are one of the proponents of those who say when reforms are happening, there will be some tough curve for us to take as a people, but then is it now time for us to start seeing the dividends? In your own estimation, Prof, are we in trouble or there is light at the end of the tunnel?
Look, Shehu, I can only give you context for you to come to conclusion by yourself. I accuse myself. I was one of those who did SAP analysis 30 years ago. I was one of those who talked about a lag in seeing the effects of the reforms. And we use the J-curve to describe this lag and how very soon as a result of all of this, you will begin to see this happen, that happen. In fact, the book that I am currently writing, which unfortunately I didn't finish writing, I hope I will finish by now, is a critique of those policies, those sets of policies. Because what happened when we offered those as explanations in 1987, 88, 89, yes, some good things happened. Institutions emerged. The foreign exchange market became a market and, saved us a lot of trouble with the exchange rate challenge and all of that. But there were many things that Washington Consensus policies were supposed to deliver. And the pushback on the state, withdrawal of the state, you talked about ASU earlier in your broadcast. The destruction of the university system came significantly from those policies of Washington Consensus. The lag did not kick in as expected. And so I'm saying we have to be more careful as we rush and embrace this. And I embrace very much the way that Mahathir Mohamad responded during the Asian financial crisis to those same pressures. They blah, blah. Mahathir refused. And that led to the fallout, his original fallout, with Anwar Ibrahim, who was his deputy prime minister and finance minister. I was there in Hong Kong at the World Bank annual meeting of October 1997, where they played this out. And, the Western media tried to push Anwar as the reformer, the preferred person. Of course, Mahathir played Malaysian politics and got Anwar out. A few years later, the IMF would agree that Mahathir made a more intelligent choice than they were making. So I'm saying let's be careful as we rush to embrace these things, that we take our own context and analyze them more properly,
Prof,
and make sure we make what is best for the Nigerian people.
Prof, and I will put you
Yes.
on the spot, right? You are not responsible for the policies of government, but I know that you are a teacher of economics, and I want you to do some marking tonight. And in doing that job tonight, I would like you to let Nigerians know what you make of this government. Or else, if you have a problem assessing your very good friend, President Bola Tinubu, you know that he knows the numbers and you know his expertise. But are those expertise working? Should we make adjustment? We are in the third year. And we need to be careful. If we make any further error or mistakes in our economic decisions as a people, we might be headed for a disaster. How do you assess, how do you mark the examination that this government has entered into? Failure or way to success?
The person better placed to mark the example is the citizen. People on the streets, ask them, are their lives better today than their lives were a year ago, 2 years ago, 3 years ago? And that's your answer. I don't have to offer an answer. You know, I've been living out of the country for the last 2.5 or so years. I don't even have enough of a pinch directly of this. So ask the people on the streets, and they will give you an answer that will help you grade your exams.
Well, in the reality of it, you're following the numbers. You're looking at the growth rate. You're looking at the inflationary impact on the economy in general. You know what exactly. You are sitting right there in Lagos, the central point of Nigeria's commerce and trade. And you know what exactly is going on. You're one of the opposition forces saying that things could be better. And tonight we're asking the questions, what could this government do differently? If you were sitting in President Bola Tinubu's chair, what are those critical decisions that you will be making right now?
Good. I will still dramatically slice the cost of governing in Nigeria. It's way too high. I would use industrial policy to stimulate production. We're not doing enough to stimulate production. Active industrial policy. We're waiting and relying on these things they tell you in Washington that if you do, you will see this. No, it's not the way it is. Go and look at how the Asians got their own economies stimulated and running. We're not doing enough of that. I would go to local levels. First of all, I will ensure that we are all, to again go back to Mahathir Mohamad, in the same room, piecing out, rather than some people being outside, piecing into the room. There's too much division in the country. We need to go for consensus, inclusion, and inclusion facilitating industrial policy, even at the grassroots, to drive particular production. Look at even Ethiopia and places like that and see what they managed to do. And we should be doing that. But we're letting politics take over in Nigeria. Everything is politics, re-election. This, the people are suffering. Let's think about the people. Let's build a consensus amongst the Nigerian elite, looking at how to best serve the people, not, spending, public money like, it doesn't matter, whereas people are dying. It does matter. Those motorcades should come down. Those bloated allowances should come down. Let us look at Egypt. Look at what President Sisi is doing. Let's act like him. Forget those other people out there and see how he's driving real growth. And they're building Egyptian companies and moving forward. We're not doing it. We're too obsessed with politics.